Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of If You Knew Then Mom Edition. I'm your host, Maria, and I'm so excited you're here. This podcast is all about real motherhood stories, those unfiltered, powerful lessons we wish somebody would have told us before we became moms. Whether it's about healing, identity, or those tiny humans that somehow teach us more about ourselves than we have ever imagined. This space is for it all. Today, I'm honored to have an incredible guest, Karolina. Hi, Karolina. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. So, my first question would be, are you a mom? How many kids do you have and how old are they?
I am a mom. I have a daughter and she's 15 days.
Wow.
Gonna be 15 in 5 days.
I'm pretty sure that hit. Yeah, I know the feeling. Every single time that they get closer to their birthday, you're like, oh, wait, what? When?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I am a mom and I have a daughter.
Man, and you have a teenager. That must be a beautiful thing.
It is. I think every stage is a beautiful thing, especially when you go through it first time, because you learn and you observe and you just discover new things all the time. I think as a parent you are on your tiptoes all the time, but not in a negative way. I've learned so much since I've become a mom about myself and about being a mom.
Do you would like to talk to us a little bit about that, the lessons you have learned?
Yeah. So I think the biggest lesson for me was to understand that I am an example to my daughter. Whatever I do, I give her an example. And when I hit burnout, that was like a wake-up call for me because I thought, well, actually, I don't want my daughter to follow my steps. I don't want her to ever experience burnout because it's a nasty, horrible thing. And yeah, it was like new chapter for me and for her.
Definitely. And how did he know? What were the signs that you were already burnt out?
I think it was lots of little things creeping for a very long time. There wasn't one specific thing. But to cut the long story short, the last 6 months before I actually wasn't able to move, I was on the go all the time. I was constantly tired. I was exhausted to the point that it was very difficult to get up in the morning. Monday morning was the least happy moment of my life. Sunday evening was the most stressful time of my life because I had to go to work tomorrow. The weekend's gone and I'm still not rested. I'm exhausted. I was snappy. I was short-tempered and didn't want to engage a lot of things, started withdrawing from a lot of things. And I felt totally disconnected with myself, with the world, and even with my daughter. Like there were moments when I think deep down she knew more about what's happening to me than I was aware, because quite often she was very tuned in and she was coming and giving me hugs and cuddles and telling me that she loves me. And she was really, really lovely, kind. But there were times when I'm thinking, I am suffocating. Just leave me alone. I want to be on my own. Just leave me alone. And then obviously I felt guilty for feeling that or thinking that way.
Yeah, those are very strong feelings and thoughts. And, I think as a mom, either most or all of us go through burnt out. And I think the most important part is what do you do after that? Once, or how can you start seeing the early signs of burned out for you to not get to that point of you dragging yourself out of bed, you know? And I think it's a very important conversation to have and for others to hear because there is a lot of shame, especially as in the motherhood, you know, community overall, and so much shame and so much social media telling you that you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that and you're supposed to look like this and you're supposed, and you're a bad mom if you work, you're a bad mom if you stay home, you're a bad mom if you don't bring enough income in, you're a bad mom if you don't spend enough tough time. And it's so there's so many things that go on that lead to burnout because if it wasn't for my mom to point it out every so often, her and her sarcastic way of doing it, I would see a lot of things, because we're in
Mm.
such in the go, go, go. At least with me, just like, I notice that my daughters learn a lot from me. And there's times that I see them and they're taking like 4 toys and they're carrying them by themselves, like, kind of like, just overwhelming themselves. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, "Oh, I need to
Yeah.
stop. I need to stop doing that because they are learning that they're seeing me carrying, and so my mom sarcastically, it is not the healthiest way and it's not the best way to do it. But she's like, okay, Superwoman, you can do it all, right? And that's when it's like,
Mm.
obviously my teenage self comes in, like wants to come out at the moment and be like, what are you talking about?
Yep.
But my adult self is like, you need a break.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing. I think we burn out because the society sets very high expectations, and also we set very high expectations, unrealistic expectations towards us. You cannot expect yourself to be happy, energetic, on the go all the time when you work, look after your children, run house, and try to save at least a little bit of yourself as Karolina or as Maria, because you want to have that part of yourself. So the unrealistic expectations are like, yeah, up there. And we don't even realize that they are unrealistic expectations. So we beat ourselves up. We use very negative self-talk towards each other. And even, in moms communities, there's so much competition. I really don't understand it. Instead of supporting each other, there's loads of competition. Do you look the way you should be looking after 2 months after having a baby? Is your child already reading, walking, talking, singing, whatever? And if not, you compare. And if not, you start finding guilt in yourself that you're doing something wrong. But we forget that each of us is different. And our children, they are individual human beings and they are different. You can have 5 children and each of them will be different because they are separate individual human beings.
yeah, that is 100% true. And that's something that I think a lot of us tend to forget unless you're actually working with kids, right? Because if you're working in a classroom, kind of like I did in the past, you see the difference between each, they're all the same age, each of them learns different.
Yeah.
And we all do. We all learn differently. We all, different timings, different everything. And you hit like the target. At the end of the day, we as moms, the mom shame is
Mhm.
huge. And the mom guilt is also huge. And these two things,
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of women tend to be either in denial or they don't want to talk about it because there's a
Mhm.
lot of shame in that, especially when it comes to the mom guilt, because it's kind
Yeah.
of like, oh, but don't feel that way, but don't feel that way. And you're like, you can continue telling me not to feel that way, but that's not helpful,
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So,
it is. It is. The other day I read, it was very catchy title. I read that moms don't need more self-care. They need more connection. And I got really, really upset when I read it and very, very sad because that came from a mom who is quite influential. And yeah, that came from a mom who says, we don't need more self-care, we need more connection. But actually, if you don't look after yourself, there's no space for connection. If you're disconnected from yourself, there's no chance you're going to connect with other people, other moms. Because if you do that, you will create more shame and more guilt for yourself because you're not in a good place to see clearly that, okay, this is how it is, how it works for her, but for me it works differently. You're not able to see that. You compare yourself, you set high expectations, and then the vicious circle goes on and on and on.
yeah, I recently posted actually on Facebook, reminding in a new moms group, reminding them that especially having a newborn to take time for themselves and rest for them to
Mm.
be able to heal themselves. And somebody anonymously, because at the end of the day, a lot of people that want to be negative, hide behind something, right? And she said the following, she said, if you're going to be using your baby as an excuse to be lazy, yeah, you should not, you need to stop or something like that. And I responded back saying, I'm sorry if you ever actually felt that way, that you didn't have, that you couldn't actually
Mhm.
heal. And I hope that one day you actually get the support that you deserve. And obviously she responded like, with more anger,
Yeah.
right? Than with actually, what is true. I do. And in a lot of cultures, they give you more time to be able to heal. And a lot of
Mhm.
cultures, they actually have a full-blown community that help you be able
Yeah.
to take care of yourself and your baby.
Yeah.
And cultures, for example, here in the United States, you're basically by yourself. And if you are lucky, you get 3 months of maternity leave if you are lucky.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's some people that get much less than that.
Oh.
And usually it's not even like paid. No pay, maternity leave. Yeah, no, it's wild. And then you're here like how can if you go back, it's too expensive to, pay, daycares and anybody to take care of your baby is too expensive. So you're in a limbo of not knowing whether to actually stay home with your baby and
Mhm.
enjoy the first year, at least the first year of life, or go back to work and, be in that limbo of back and forth. There's
Yeah.
some moms that need to go back to work because that's just a
Yeah.
personality. There's some moms
Yeah.
that need to stay home because that's what they need. And so
Yeah.
by having, people like, like that, that's constantly shaming on moms that need that reassurance that, hey, I need to put myself first because how can you
Mm.
pour from an empty cup?
You cannot.
You cannot.
You cannot. That's the thing. There is a saying that if you don't create time for your wellness, you will have to create time for your illness. And sooner or later, it will hit you like it hit
Yes.
me.
Yeah,
Because
that's
you
100%
cannot
true.
go on empty as an ongoing thing.
Mhm.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, your body at the end of the day, we need to understand that it's flesh and you can only take so much. And I would say that if you hit burnout and you realize and you start turning things around to make you start the healing process, that's amazing. But there's a lot of women that hit burnout and continue going. That
Mm.
I've been to retreats with just women and women, like seasoned moms. It really hit me when I was like, oh my goodness, I really need to take care of myself and do things for me because hearing their stories, it was so powerful because I hear what they were saying and most of them ended up with strokes, with heart attacks, with cancer, with chronic diseases, so many things. And even one that she worked for like in the health world selling, I think that was the blood pressure machines. So she was very educated
Mm.
on what it was to make sure that your blood pressure was
Yeah.
leveled and how to, and all of it. Her body was giving her all the red flags. She ended up in the hospital. She had 2 strokes. And she
Mhm.
was like, I felt so dumb because I should have known. But I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to provide my kids to be able to go to a trip. I wanted to be able to do this. I wanted to be able to do that. And so
Yeah.
just listening to that story, it was kind of like all of, salary is great and being able to travel is great and being able to take them to whatever and trip
Mhm.
and blah, 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 blah. But what good is that if you're not healthy? If
Yeah.
and unfortunately, there's a lot of moms that drop.
Yeah, it's true. That's why I think self-care is really, really important, but it's also really important to understand what self-care is, because I think there is loads of misconception. And, I was one of those people thinking, yeah, it's something luxurious. It's something from time to time, on and off. But my recovery helped me to realize that self-care is, in a way, it's your lifestyle. It's your reclaiming your energy, your boundaries, and yourself as a person. Because when you are in a good place, honestly, your relationships improve. When you're happy, your children are happy. When you're tired, your children can feel it, they can sense it. You may say to them, I'm fine, but you actually snap at them, so they know that you're not fine. So stop pretending because they're not stupid, and don't treat them like, they don't understand, because they do. And start looking after yourself the way you would start look after your children. So go back to basic. That's what I did. I went back to basics. So I have loads of food allergies, but I was totally dismissing that fact for a very long time. I'm gluten intolerant, but I loved bread, so I was eating a lot of bread. It backfired because I had constant headache, I had constant tummy ache, I was constantly tired. And the moment I stopped eating gluten, I started feeling better. I regained my energy. Now, if it was your child, you would do everything not to give the gluten, not to give bread. But because it's you, you think, well, whatever. But it doesn't work that way. You need to start from yourself so you can give a good example to your children. And I can see with my daughter, she does respect herself. She does respect her boundaries. She makes sure that she rests when she needs it. She's an introvert. I'm an introvert. And there was a time when she was in the twin phase, when you're not a teenager, but you're not a child anymore. And it was very difficult time for her. And it was difficult time for me because I started perimenopause at that time. So, it was a double whammy. Loads of hormones up and down from my side, from her side. There was loads of disagreement, loads of snappiness, loads of tension. And there was a time when she was coming back from school and I was really dreading her coming back from school because I was her target. Whatever was happening at school, I was her target because I was working from home. So I was there. So one day we had a chat and I said, look, how does it work that when you come from school, I'm your punch bag, but the hour later your dad comes back home and you're like, hi, Dad, how was your day? I'm like, come on. So we had this conversation and she said, you're here and I have to offload. Okay, fair enough. So we came up to this agreement that we have a quick chat when she comes back home. She can vent, and when she needs to vent, she tells me, shush your mush. And this is my sign that, yeah, whatever she's telling, I need to keep my mouth shut. And then she goes upstairs to her room and she stays there until she's ready to start day with us in the afternoon.
I love that. I love that so much because having worked with middle schoolers, and those pre-teenage years, they're really hard years. And I don't think anybody would like to actually, I have not met one single person yet to be like, I would love to be back when I was 13. I would love to be able to go back when I was 12. Nobody, no. If you are a person listening right now and you loved your pre-teenage years, I would love to hear from you because
Definitely.
it is a very hard stage of life. And I think a lot of us adults tend to forget it. We tend to forget because we're like, oh my God, you're so dramatic, or it's not even that important. It's just a phase. You'll get over it. And it's very dismissive. And that is when a lot of teenagers tend to push back and they get upset and they start lashing out and they only want to be listened to. They only want to be able to be seen and heard and be acknowledged. And having that shush and mush is amazing. It's so funny. And I love it because I'm going to write it down in my little book of things to remember when they're teenagers, like preteens, because it is so important. And here's the thing. And that's something that a lot of moms get. We get hurt. And I say we because, it has happened to me and I'm pretty sure will happen to me in the future. But we take things personal.
Yeah.
Take things personal, especially when it comes from our kids. And at the end of the day, here's the thing. Kids do not do things to actually make you upset. They don't purposely try to hurt you unless you're really hurting them. Then they tend to want to do that because that's what they're learning. But besides that, we do become their punching bags. And it's because you are their safe zone.
Yeah.
You're their unconditional love, and it's something that I read. And here's something interesting that kids, but especially girls, their connections with their dad is extremely important, right? And this goes for all kids, but specifically for girls. What happens is that they feel like dad's love need to be earned, right? You as a mom with your child tend to become like you guys are a one. And until a certain age, that's what you are. And that's the reason they become so attached to you and they don't want to, because, and that's the reason when they say dad or dada before mom, because for them, you're you and me, and we're just one being.
We're the extension. But I tell you something interesting. What I've discovered after my recovery, practicing self-care on a daily basis, what I've noticed is that I only take something personal when I'm not in a good place.
I love that. Yeah. But just
So
100%.
if you're in a good place, physically, emotionally, mentally, you won't take it personally. But if you're constantly tired, if you had difficult night because your little one was up, you are going to take things personally. You are going to be more sensitive. That's why it's so important to look after yourself on a daily basis with little things in between. And it's not about being lazy.
Yeah.
It's
100%
about
right. Yeah.
making sure that you are in a good space so you can be there for your child.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. And especially if you're exhausted, it's very hard not to get irritated very fast.
Absolutely.
It's something, and that's another thing. Like, so being a sleep consultant and helping moms and little ones be able to sleep, there's a shame and there's like a guilt from it for wanting to actually teach your kids how to sleep and, help them have this order and sleep training of like having a routine and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the essential part is like the babies need rest and you need rest. And for you to be able to be more patient and be more focused and just enjoy even the meltdowns, you also need to take, like you said, you need to take care of yourself. And those tiny little things of like being able to actually rest and being able to sleep, did you eat today? Did you not eat today? Did you look at yourself in the mirror this morning? That is something huge because there's times that I know that we go through the day and we're like, did I look at myself in the mirror? And that is those tiny little lights that are, on your dashboard that is like, hey, something's going on.
Self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Self-compassion. It's also something very important, and we forget about it. We're very, very eager to be compassionate towards others, but we are very, very harsh on ourselves, and our self-talk can be really harsh. Like, oh, you stupid, you should have, you're fat. The list is endless, isn't it?
Yeah.
And quite often you look at yourself in a mirror and you don't even smile at you.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
Yeah. Because especially there's something, I heard this not too long ago that was like, you take care of everybody, you take care of anybody. But do you realize that the only human that you're stuck with for the rest of your life is the only one that you do not take care of?
Yeah.
And you're like, that just like blew my mind because it's so true. And especially as moms that we get so stuck on the title mom, that is your one and only role in life. And I think at the end of the day, we need to understand that our kids are individuals and we need to also learn how to detach that type of dependency because a lot of parents and especially a lot of moms tend to be very dependent on their kids more than the kids are dependent on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad that you've said that, because that's what I find when I work with my clients quite often. And I work with a lot of mature women in their 40s, 50s, when the children are teenagers or grown-ups, and suddenly they find themselves with this empty nest syndrome. They don't need me. What am I going to do now? And actually, the fact that you've become a mom doesn't mean that you cannot be yourself. And I would say it's even more important to continue with your hobbies, with your interests, with your passions than ever. Because A, this is you. B, you're showing your children that it's okay to have passions, and actually you can share those passions with your children. You're showing them that you're a human being, not a robot, doing laundry, cooking, cleaning, shopping, and you're happier. You're simply happier person, and you enjoy your motherhood more. Whereas if you focus only on your children, like I have just one daughter. If I didn't have my passions, if I didn't have my job, if I didn't have my own life, I think her life now would be very miserable. Because as a teenager, she needs space. She's at the stage where what her friends say is more important than what I say. She's at the stage where she's going with her problems to her friends, not to her mom, which is absolutely fine. This is what should be happening. I am quite cautious when I hear moms saying, oh, I'm best friend with my daughter. My daughter and I, we are best friends. I'm like, okay, so do you tell each other everything? Yeah. Like, really everything? Yeah. It's good that your daughter knows that she can come to you and she can talk about her problems. That's your role. That's your job. But it's not good if you tell your daughter everything what's happening with your life, or your daughter tells everything to you. She needs her own friends, her own age. Yeah, I know that I would have been really, really focused on my daughter now if I didn't have my own life.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be having the relationship we're having
Yeah.
because she would fed up with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, working with teens, I can tell you that is something that I learned watching these kids day by day. And there has to be a balance. And it doesn't matter what age your kid is in. They need boundaries, they need rules, and they need authority at the end of the day because they're still kids, right? So, yes, mom is your friend, but you need to have your thing and I have my thing.
Yeah.
I very much encourage my girls to constantly either play with each other, and if they don't want to see each other, because of course they're girls, so they're gonna have days that they don't want to see each other, and that's fine. Not forcing them to play with each other, and just encouraging that independence play as well, because how are we expecting our kids to learn about themselves and create their own individual personality when we are constantly pushing what we are expecting them to be, right? And that's a whole conversation in of itself.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I know that us moms are doing the best that we can with what we got and what we know. You know, I think it's a very challenging, like motherhood and parenthood overall is a very challenging journey to be in and not get that line blurred, because at the end of the day is you are the mom, you're the parent, they want to have that. And what I'm telling you, like these kids, I remember like at the beginning, I was very always strict, like always first few months, I'm always very strict in the classroom because I need them to understand that I'm there as their teacher, not as their friend. And just as my daughters, we can play around, things like that, but stop, because that is how you teach boundaries and healthy relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that you're mean. It's not tough love. I really don't like this expression tough love, because to me it's true love. It's love, because you want the best for your children. So saying no is actually, that's what they need. Having routine that's what they need. They need to feel safe. They need to know that they can count on you no matter what. And yes, parenthood, motherhood is difficult, is challenging, especially these days with all the information on social media and everywhere. But I would say trust your gut, trust your instincts, because your instincts are telling you the right thing.
Yeah.
Be strong in your beliefs, and try to avoid social media.
Yeah, do that social media detox, and it's literally life changing. It's
I
wild how
sometimes
really.
wonder how they create so many strange things, these fancy looking houses, clean and tidy when you have two children, for example, this, beautiful outfits where your children are wearing really nice, tidy, clean outfits, and you're as well. I'm like, come on. This is not
Yeah,
good.
it is nowhere near it. And there's a lot of social media moms out there that actually rent houses.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They rent spaces. They rent spaces and then they hire extra help to be able to take care of their kids. And then when it's time, which is fine. Like if that's your thing, that's your thing, like you're doing your own content, you're getting paid, good for you. Like you have the money for that. But if here's the thing, that is not real life. That's not what it truly is. Life as a mom is a chaotic mess, and that's perfectly fine. It's chaos, and that's the beauty of it. We just need to learn how to let go and understand that life is a chaos and we have no control over anything. And that's okay.
Yeah. And that's part of self-care as well. Let go and know your limits and know what you can control and you cannot control.
Yeah.
That's also self-care.
Yes, 100%. So before we go, I would like for you to tell the audience what is it that you do and how we can find you.
So I'm a well-being coach, and I work with working moms, and I help them to simplify their daily routine, reduce stress, and create self-care according to their needs. It's not a cookie cutter approach. And you can find me on my website, which is karolinaross.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under the same name. And on my website, you can also find a mini workbook, which I created with cost-free doable, actionable tools which you can use to reduce your stress, regain your energy here and now instead of in a week or by the end of the day.
I love it. Thank you so much. I'll be posting all those links below. And if this resonates with you, I'd love for you to like, follow, and share this podcast with a fellow mom. And if you have a story that you would like to share, a lesson, a laugh, or a moment that has changed everything, send me a message and I would love to have you as my next guest. Thank you, Karolina, for being here with us.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.